And I'm the president of Speak Up Newport. Speak Up Newport, if you don't know, is a nonprofit, nonpartisan citizens group organized to promote the common good and general welfare of the Newport Beach community. We meet, like tonight, on the second Wednesday of the month at this location, the Civic Center at the Newport Beach City Hall, and we present topics and speakers of interest to the local Newport Beach community. Meetings begin, as you noticed, with a light buffet subsidized by the Bungalow Restaurant in Corona del Mar. The business meeting begins at 6 and we adjourn at 7. There's no charge and no reservations are needed. But we do encourage you to become a member of Speak Up Newport. A regular membership is $25 and a sustaining membership is $50 a year. It's not a fundraiser. It simply gives us an indication that you support the work that we're doing, and it helps us to show a broad community support. So if you would go online to speakupnewport.com, you can join online, and we appreciate that if you would do that. We also have a foundation, Speak Up Newport Foundation, and we give scholarships to worthy Newport Beach high school students. That is a 501c3, so it's a tax-deductible donation, and we will accept donations in any amount, and you can also do that online. So if you would check out our website, you'll find lots of information. We appreciate that. So right now, this evening, I will introduce our board member, Hugh Logan, who will introduce the program.
Thank you very much, Deborah. Tonight, we have a program that I think will be of interest to you. And if somebody told you that we had trash in the bay and we had questions about water quality, then I think most of you would say, well, we need to do something about that. Well, we are doing something about that. The city of Newport Beach is doing something about that. And tonight we have an eminently qualified person, Bob Stein, to take us through some of those things. Bob has had a distinguished career. He is currently an assistant city engineer, and he is a graduate with a PhD from the University of California, Irvine, so he certainly is well qualified. He has spent some 34 years in civil engineering design practice in Southern California, and 12 of those years were in private practice. So he has a combination of both private practice and the city's problems in public works. His current projects include the Santa Ana Delhi Channel Regional Trash Facility, the Big Canyon Nature Park Restoration Program, designed for a storm drain pump station and drainage system for Marine Avenue, and the Arches storm drain diversion to prevent bacteria from entering the turning basin. So without further ado, here is Bob Stein.
I'm used to working with a mouse and not these. Let's see here. I might need some help here. Thank you, Chloe. I don't know. So I was here back in January and to talk about sea level rise, and it was standing room only, which is it's kind of odd because sea level rise is a very slow moving train wreck, nothing we really can do, but trash is here and now, and so for me this is a much more interesting and fun topic. So thank you very much for inviting me. So let me first preface by saying that the water quality in Newport Bay is great. If you talk to some of the old timers or to Duffy or to the Beeks, and they'll tell you that the water quality hasn't been this good since the 50s. I mean, you can literally go to the turning base and look down 20 feet and see the bottom. And it's really great. And it's because we've had a sustained water quality program now since the 70s. And it's paid off. We don't have the algae blooms, we don't have the fish kills, we don't have the Upper Bay turning into a mud flat. You know, everything is really moving in the right direction. We have traces of some metals, and you know, pesticides may be an issue in the future. But the real thing that hits everybody in the eye, of course, is trash. You just can't go out onto the harbor without seeing floating trash. And it's a worldwide issue, clearly, but for Newport Bay, that depends upon clean beaches and clean water for, you know, it's an economic driver. It really is critical for Newport Beach to be looking at the trash issue. And we really have a leadership in the county. We've been working on stepping up our trash reduction efforts for almost 20 years now. So here it is. Floatable trash is something that's most obvious. You can see this is from the Boudreaux boom. It's on the Santa Ana Delhi Channel. A lot of plastic in there, floating bottles. And it's great that it's being captured at that boom, but a lot of it escapes. And it ends up in the Upper Bay, and we got these great volunteers coming through and hand picking up all this plastic and using kayaks. But they do this on a month-to-month basis, and you can imagine it probably isn't great for our sensitive intertidal plants to have people tromping around every month. Really, we'd like to use the volunteers as kind of the polishing to go at those places that are just have a little bit of trash to be picked up and not doing the heavy work that's going on. And really, it's every month we have volunteers out there doing this work. And I just think there's a better way for us to be utilizing that manpower. And then, of course, when we have a big storm, hundreds and hundreds of tons of trash come into the bay. Some of it's caught in the North Star boom. A lot of it doesn't get caught, ends up fouling the props of boats, goes out the jetty, ends up on the beaches. And so our volunteers, of course, can't do anything about that. That takes heavy equipment. So what I'd like to do today is talk briefly about some of the things we have done in the past, the things that we're doing now that are very interesting and progressive, and then looking at what we can do in the next few years to really step up our efforts. So back when we were working on the Balboa Village project back in 2000, 2001, we started putting these trash basin screens on the catch basins. We have over 400 of those now installed on catch basins along the peninsula, and they do the obvious thing. They keep the trash from getting into the catch basins and then flowing out into the bay. We can only have these installed during the dry season because they do inhibit flood flows, and so we have to take them off. So it's labor intensive, but our staff does that on a yearly basis. And also at that time, we started stepping up our street sweeping practices, especially on the peninsula, because it is such a high visibility, visitor intensive area. We took the extra step, and during the summer, we're street sweeping on a daily basis in Balboa Village. So the next step was starting to look at the actual storm drains themselves. We have over 200 city storm drains that outlet into the harbor and into the bay. And so Dave Webb, our Director of Public Works, came over from Huntington Beach. He had great success using these CDS units, and there's Dave right here. These are the continuous deflective separation devices. And what they do is the water flows in. Let's see here. Oh, my pointer doesn't show up there. Flows in, it's got the trash, goes into this device, the trash settles out, and the clean flow comes out of the device. And you can see that the result there on the picture on the right. So we've installed over 40 of these units now on our major storm drains around the city, including this gigantic CDS unit on our Carnation drain. This is in Begonia Park. The Carnation drain is the biggest drain that we have in the city. It's draining the area from Fashion Island, portions of Corona del Mar, and this was a monster to put in. You look down into this pit, it was over 30 feet deep, and you can see that the workers are dwarfed by the actual CDS unit. So a great project, and one that certainly is having a big impact on cleaning up water coming into the bay from that drain. And we have another similar project plan for Polaris Drive. This is an area that's over by Irvine Avenue, covers small portions of Costa Mesa, 17th Avenue, and we'll be putting this, I think this is Galaxy Drive. That's something that's in the works right now, at least for planning. And then these cool devices, they're trash skimmers. They're just kind of a upsized version of the things you might see in your pools. But while they don't cruise around, they're actually hooked up to a dock. They have been very successful in collecting trash. We have 6 of these installed now, and we're looking at installing more around the harbor. And we actually did some quantification of the stuff that we found in these trash skimmers. And you look through here, you see there's a lot of items that are plastic related, lids, forks and spoons, floating bottles. So we qualitatively understand that trash is an issue, but the floating plastic, that is something that's really something we think we can get a handle around, because it is stuff that's been used once and then tossed and is not finding its way into the proper receptacles. And then we had this great event last year. It was the Newport Harbor Underwater Cleanup at the Balboa Bay Club. What a great event. They had over 200 volunteers. Had boats, Duffies, that were taking the divers around to the various areas. They collected up over 1,000 pounds of trash. You can see Mayor Duffy was actually the MC for that event. And it was so successful that we're going to repeat that this year. It's actually being promoted by, let's see here, Help Your Harbor. But this year they're going to send out divers to do some reconnaissance, find out where the high trash areas are, and then direct those divers to those spots to pick up trash. So just a great event, and I expect it'll happen every year. But I should caution you that, 1,000 pounds of trash may sound like a lot, but when we're talking hundreds and hundreds of tons of trash coming in every big storm, then you can see it's just kind of just a tip of the iceberg. So while we've been moving forward proactively as a city to step up our game on removing trash, the state last year implemented these new trash regulations. They're great. They're requiring every city and every agency to reduce trash by 100% over the next 10 years. I should say reduce trash from the high priority areas. So each city and each county is going to have to go through, find out where their big trash generation areas are, and then come up with a plan to reduce it every year by 10%. So theoretically, after 10 years, there should be no trash coming from those areas. So it's great. We're really enthusiastic about that. We're encouraging our upstream neighbors to get on board, and they are. Now these new regulations, there's a couple options how you can move forward. The option that most cities in Orange County are opting for is called Track 1. And under Track 1, you install these full capture systems. That's a pretty big word for what they actually are, which is these catch basin inserts. And the way they work is you have a pipe coming out of the catch basin. You install the screen ahead of that outlet so that trash dropping into the catch basin stays within the catch basin, and then the water can flow through the screen and go out the storm drain. We have no catch basins inserts like this installed at the city, but we're planning to, like every year, install 300, 400, or 500 every year. We have 3,000 catch basins citywide, but the high priority areas, we're probably more looking at 12 to 1,500 catch basins that will have to be retrofitted. And I should say that our neighbors up in the city of Tustin, they are almost 100% complete with installing these inserts. They were being proactive. And the city of Santa Ana also has been very good. They probably are 80 to 90% of the way toward installing these types of screens. Yes, sir. So you'll notice at the corner of many streets, an opening in the curb. And if you looked inside, you'd see a box. And so that's the catch basin, and each catch basin has a storm drain outlet that leads either directly to the bay or to another pipe, connects to it, and eventually gets to the bay. So it's only flow in the street that gets into the catch basin. It's a separate system than the sewer system, which is a totally different system. So again, this is the photo from 2010 where we captured 500 tons of trash at the North Star boom. So it's fine that we have these catch basin inserts to capture the street trash, but we know it's not going to be sufficient. If you look carefully at this photo, you see that there's a lot of trash and there's also a lot of debris. The debris is tules and cattails that are growing in the flood control channels. Now, the green waste or debris is not considered trash, technically. However, the regional board has said, when you mix trash and you mix green debris, it's all trash. And it obviously makes sense because when you clean it up, you can't separate them. You have to clean it up in mass. So we know we're going to have to be a little more strategic on how to handle these huge loads of trash that we get in during storm events. And it looks like this needs a little adjustment here, but the challenge is that most of the flow that's coming into the Newport Bay is not from our storm drains. It only accounts for perhaps 5% of the total freshwater flow. It's coming from San Diego Creek and the Santa Ana Delhi Channel. And the tributary area here is shown in green, and it covers Lake Forest, Irvine, Tustin, Santa Ana, Costa Mesa. And so most of the freshwater flow is coming from these cities, and while we don't know quantitatively if this is true, we can hypothesize that most of the trash is also coming from these jurisdictions. So we need to be able to reach out to them and come up with solutions on a more regional basis in order to effectively capture these huge trash loads coming down the creeks. So I think you can read that. We're looking at two regional facilities here. One is the Santa Ana Delhi trash facility located on the Delhi Channel. And the second is the Waterwheel that is potentially going to be located on San Diego Creek just upstream of Jamboree Road. And this also shows the location of the Boudreaux boom. That was a picture I showed earlier. That's located just downstream of Mesa Drive on the Delhi Channel. That Boudreaux boom can perhaps handle 1 ton of trash before it will break free. We're talking hundreds and hundreds of tons that we really need to capture. So let's first talk about the Santa Ana Delhi Channel Regional Trash Facility. It's in construction right now. It captures 11 square mile area that's tributary toward this facility. And it includes Santa Ana, which is shown in green, Costa Mesa, also John Wayne Airport, and small portions of Irvine and Newport Beach. And the location of the facility is in the Newport golf course next to the Delhi Channel. So it's just to the south of Bristol Street. So I will show you some pictures of that. However, it's a little hard to see from the pictures, so I'm going to start you out with the engineering drawing, kind of walk through the different elements, and hopefully you can bear with me here. The green lines show the walls of the existing flood control channel. And in the center of the channel, shown in blue, that's where we have a small low-flow channel that keeps the water, the small quantities of water in the middle of the channel. What is proposed is to divert that low-flow channel to the side channel shown at the bottom. So you see the blue lines coming off toward the side of the channel at the bottom. That will divert all the water into the trash collection facility. Now, before it enters the trash collection facility, there's a little magenta line there. It's called a Coanda screen. I'm going to show that to you in a moment. And then once it flows past that Coanda screen, I actually do need a laser pointer here. It flows into a series of trash nets. I'll also show you a diagram of that. And then the water then, for low flow, summer flows, will be going into a sump area, and that water pumped to the Orange County Sand District. That water will be cleaned up and then sent over to the Orange County Water District for additional treatment, and then inserted into the groundwater replenishment system for potable water use. This is for the summer flows. During storm flows, this facility will be able to capture trash from the first flush event, but all the flows will go back into the bay. The flows are just too much to send to the Orange County Sand District. This is a plan view. This is a plan view looking on top. I think that we tried that last time and it did not work. Do we have that option? Okay, so I first want to show you what the Coanda screen looks like. So again, this is the low flow that's coming off the channel, and before it enters the trash collection facility, it goes across this Coanda screen. And what this does is it separates the trash from the water. So the trash is on top of the screen. There's there's little veins that allow the water to come through the screen in a efficient manner, and the cigarette butts and the leaves and the small trash down to a size of 5 millimeters is sloughed off into the trash collection area. Then this flow goes through through these trash nets that are stacked vertically. And so these trash nets will capture the floatable trash. And so you have a large storm, and as these nets get accumulated with trash, the water level rises, and then the floatable trash goes into the next bank of trash nets. And at the end of the storm, the crews come in, they pull these bags out, and replace them with fresh bags. So here are some photos here. This is when they were initially removing a 250-foot length of the flood control channel wall. And this is at the Newport golf course. And then they created these, and you can see they stacked these sandbags here so that the flow within the channel is being diverted around the construction area. And then they constructed the low flow channel diversion in and out of the trash collection area. And I'm probably easier to see on the next photo. So here we're looking downstream. You can see the low flow now is being diverted to the left-hand side into the trash collection facility, and then the flow, since the pumps are not working, continues downstream and goes back into the channel. And then this is the access road into the trash, from the golf course into the trash collection area. And at the bottom, while they have not been installed yet, are where the trash bags are going to be installed, this bank of trash nets. And then just downstream of that, as a final trash capturing mechanism, we have this large screen here. So anything that escapes the trash nets will be caught in this large fence screen. And you can see here during the construction, even though the pump station is not operating, trash was being diverted into that area and captured by that screen. And finally, this is another picture showing when after the storm recedes, you can see now, this is looking upstream, coming down, the water is being diverted into the trash area. And the main channel there is dry. So again, during the dry season, all the water will be captured and sent to the sand district for treatment, and only during the storm season will the flood channel be flooding. Now, this photo shows that once the water in the sump gets pumped out in a force main, it first goes into a CDS unit, into a flow monitoring vault, and then pumped to the OC Sand District line. And this is showing the City of Costa Mesa actually installing the force main. So the projected schedule is that this will be online in fall. Design, construction, O&M costs, about $9.3 million. And the funding partners include Santa Ana, the County of Orange, City of Newport Beach, Costa Mesa, OC Water District gave $1 million, IRWD, and then we also got significant help from OCTA's Measure M grant funds. So this was a kind of a groundbreaking regional effort here, and one that we think would be appropriate for the San Diego Creek folks. They also have engineered channels, and so this type of design could be modified and adapted for San Diego Creek. Now, we've actually proposed that to the partners. We anticipate that there will be extended discussions on that facility that could take many, many years. So in the interim, we're looking at the Waterwheel trash facility, which is not, does not have the ability to capture trash down to 5 millimeters, but it has the ability to at least capture a sizable amount of floating trash. So again, the location of that would be just upstream of the Jamboree Bridge on the San Diego Creek. And this is the prototype that's in operation in Baltimore. It's called the Trash Wheel. And it's been working for at least 5 years, and it's very popular. It has its own Facebook page, apparently. And here's the dimensions of the facility. It's 52 feet long, 24 feet wide, 14 feet high. And the way this works is that there's these two booms that channel the floating trash to the trashmobile, the trash wheel. And then the trash is loaded onto a conveyor belt. The conveyor belt is operated by this water wheel, which is powered by the stream flow and assisted by solar energy. And the trash then is dumped into a dumpster. And when the dumpster is full, a boat comes in and it hauls it away to a place where it's loaded into haul trucks for a land facility disposal. Here's another view showing the boom system. So our proposed location, as I mentioned, is just upstream of Jamboree Bridge. And I'll kind of walk you through how this would actually work. We've done the preliminary engineering on this. So it's somewhat of a what I call a feasibility study to see if it is possible. We won't actually know if we've found all the hidden problems until we actually get into the final engineering. But at this point, we don't see any red flags. So the way this works is a trash truck comes into an entrance off of Jamboree Road, and then it comes to the end of the roadway and it backs into the turnaround area and then pulls forward. Then the dumpster, which is out on the waterway, it's sitting on a rail system, and the cable is activated, and the dumpster, which is full, comes up the slope and comes up to the landing pad area. At that point, the truck backs up, loads it up, hauls it away, and another truck comes in with a fresh dumpster and reloads it back down on the water wheel. And that might be a little easier to visualize in the next diagram, where the water wheel is sitting on the water, and the green dumpster is at the back of the water wheel. Now you can see the rail system here, and you can see now how it's sitting on a pile system, and the dumpster then is transported to the top of the hillside. So it's a little unusual for Newport Beach to have something like this, but we certainly have the opportunities for landscaping and fencing this area here, so it's not going to be an eyesore, and it's also not going to be a security issue. So a potential schedule, and this may be a little aggressive, is we're completing the preliminary engineering now. We're working on the CEQA, the environmental documents, and that should be completed by August. And at that point, we'll hear if we have received grant funding from the Ocean Protection Council. That is, the grant application has been submitted, and now they're just waiting for us to complete the CEQA before they make a determination. Assuming we get the funding, and assuming that we have successful discussions, further discussions with flood control, because this is their jurisdiction, then we would move forward with construction documents, with potential construction starting in May 2020. So I think that would be the best case scenario. Construction cost about $1.6 million, 6 to 8 months for the construction. So we're kind of excited about this because of the location. It's going to be visible from the Jamboree Road as well as the 73. We've already had some people that want to have their sponsorship shown on the sale of the water wheel. We think that there's possibilities for reaching out to kids. I think that it'll be attractive to them to see this kind of mechanism at work, collecting the trash. So we're very interested in this, but we're still not at a point where we can say for sure that this is a viable project. But at this point, it looks like it's a go. So, these kinds of trash collection projects, the water wheel, the kind of projects that engineers like to do, we got the design, we got the construction, we got the concrete, but they're very expensive, very, very expensive. So, and if you also factor in maintenance costs, because there's going to be additional maintenance for cleaning out the skimmers, cleaning out the regional facility, the CDS units, the catch basins. We're talking millions and millions and millions of dollars every year. So there really has to be a better way to handle this stuff. This is stuff that shouldn't be in our waterways. Why are we spending $4, $5, $10 million a year to clean it up? So we're now looking at a pilot program with our friends up in the city of Santa Ana and Costa Mesa. And this pilot program is looking at reducing trash at the source. And this is different than a litter reduction program. This is not trying to say, put your trash in the garbage can. This is more about, hey, if you don't need a straw, don't use a straw. That we want to encourage kids to start thinking a little bit more about what do they really need when they go to a restaurant. Not just kids, but adults. I say kids because the whole green revolution seems to be spearheaded by the younger folks. So we're coming up with this plan where we're going to take a segment of Costa Mesa or Santa Ana that is high generation trash, where we have a lot of fast food restaurants or just restaurants in general, and put together a program where we measure the trash that we have in the catch basins, measure the trash we have finding in the channels, and then come up with a program, a public outreach program, to start encouraging people to reduce source of the trash, reduce trash at the source. So again, this is just kind of reiterating here that a lot of the meals that we have, tons of plastic are at the table, and it ends up in our catch basins in the waterways. So here's the plan. Santa Ana and Costa Mesa are looking for their high trash areas. They're going to identify 20 or 30 catch basins with high trash, and we're going to quantify it. We're going to hire someone to go in and weigh it, separate it out, try to get a sense for what that trash is. At the same time, we're going to walk the flood control channels and look at that trash, characterize it. Now, what we're going to find is that, yes, these catch basin inserts are capturing a lot of trash, but a lot of trash is directly deposited there, either aerially from the freeways or illegal dumping or homeless folks, different mechanisms. And so we want to get a sense for how much trash is in each of those areas. And then we want to do this public outreach program. And the county now has these consultants that are specialists on what's the word I'm looking for? Social media. So I'm starting to understand the power of social media, at least for the young folks. And so if there's a message that can get out there to show them that yes, this material is bad for the fish and the fowl and the turtles, and it's just not cool, that maybe they'll get into the idea of, yes, I will bring my cup to Starbucks and ask them to fill that up and not ask for a paper cup. Or the hotel folks will say, or the restaurant folks will say, we're only going to give you straws if you ask for them. And see if we can get some kind of traction, and then go out and measure again to see if we see a difference in the trash loading into the catch basins and into the flood channels. And then we'll be able to share those results with our partners, and then based on that information, adjust our community outreach program, perhaps adjust how we clean the channels prior to storms, looking for different ways to actually reduce the loading coming into our facilities, which then require all this intensive operation and maintenance. So this slide is just something I threw in here. It's probably not the right location. It's artwork from the Coastal Commission. Could be part of the social media campaign.
Plastic bags. I see that you're heading there. Straws serve upon request. I see you're heading there, and well, why don't we just ban straws and ban plastic stuff bags? What's wrong with
Well,
that?
was it last week? There was a front page article in the Register that McDonald's is looking at getting rid of plastic straws. So that's great. That leadership is great because as engineers, we don't want to be on the cutting edge. We would like to be falling in someone's step. And so I think that, I was shocked when I saw that article. I think that's where we may be heading, that not necessarily banning straws, but looking for less use of straws, different materials, paper straws, materials that actually biodegrade. I think that's where we're heading. But like we saw for the drought, you kind of have to lead people into doing landscapes that use water thrifty plants, and at some point people get it, they make the change without having the whip behind them. So I think that's probably where we're heading. I think, hasn't Newport Beach already banned styrofoam?
Yes.
Okay, right. So asking restaurants to get rid of plastic plates and things, that's a bit of a jump for these guys. They're businesses, they know what they know. So I think there's a certain education process. I think the customers almost have to drive it. If the customers say they don't want that material, then perhaps the owners will understand that they need to make a change.
The Restaurant Association was the biggest stakeholder for the high school students that initiated the styrofoam ban. Is they went to the Restaurant Association, got their buy-in, and it was an easy to do. And the question I'd like to ask is, we've gone through the styrofoam ban, and we also have gone through an aggressive street sweeping program here in Newport Beach. Has that improved the water quality at all? Are those two major things?
I don't know what the baseline was for trash 20 years ago. And Councilman Avery tells me whenever he takes a boat onto the harbor, he just sees floating trash. So I don't know. But if we're going to be looking to clean up trash within the harbor, Newport Beach almost has to be kind of the moral lead if we're going to ask the inland cities to also start looking at controlling their styrofoam and plastic trash from entering the waterways. So we're kind of feeling our way through here. It's, as you can imagine, politically sensitive. So because we don't want to get in the way of the businesses. We want them to be prosperous, but at the same time, the city has a serious investment in operation and maintenance that looks like it should be smaller.
Thank you. As a former member of the State Water Quality Board, I want to congratulate the city of Newport Beach on moving ahead again on trying to do something about this. I have two questions for you, if I may. Newport Boulevard has been under construction, heavy undergrounding of big pipes and stuff for months. And it goes from, of course, the bay all the way up to 15th Street, I should say. So that's question number one. What are they doing there? And then the other one is, do we have, okay, we're moving ahead. You were talking about that, which is exciting. But what are we doing with all the trash? Is there any way at all Newport Beach can be a forerunner in waste to energy, something like that? Our landfills cannot take this forever. It really can't. All the trash offshore, no matter what we do. And if there's some way that we could start encouraging more, you're encouraging more and more. I'm not trying to knock anything you're doing, it's wonderful. But to other, more than, all the way up to the state level, we've never been able to do that. And it's just a passion with me, we're going to have to go that way. So do you have any comments on that?
Well, let me refer the first question to Director Webb, who's in the audience here. What's happening on Newport Boulevard?
Hi, gang. The Orange County Sanitation District's currently lining and replacing one of their major trunk sewer lines. Runs through our city yard and down, and it's going down Newport Boulevard. So that work you see there is basically a sewer project. And again, we like that because we want to make sure that facility is in good shape. We don't have any overflows. There's a capacity and an upgrade in quality there. The other one with regard to trash, I'm going to let Bob handle that one because he's probably got a great answer for it.
Well, I don't, but Public Works now is starting to look at the interface between water and the power that's needed for the delivery of water. I think that 17% of all the power used in California is for moving water around. So, we're looking at, we're installing EV stations for cars. We've got new street lights that are more energy effective. So I think it's a natural progression for us to start looking at the costs of power for, associated with the trash generation. So that would be something on the horizon for the Public Works and the city as a whole. So perhaps you need to initiate that question on how the city could actually move forward on that one. This, I think, was also my penultimate slide here. Let me see here. Again, this is just the pilot program funding. So what we're doing is the cities of Costa Mesa, as I said, are going to make a survey of their catch basins to see which ones are the most problematic and start their own program for quantifying this trash. We're talking to the OC Watershed partners about providing a small amount of money to prepare a work plan that would allow us to scientifically quantify the amount of trash that's in the catch basins, in the streets, and in the flood control channels. Then for the San Ana Del High Regional Facility, there is $1 million there for the next 20 years O&M. So we want to approach our partners and say, let's take a small portion of that to actually implement this pilot program. And then we also want to talk to the MPDS program. They have an education committee. They have a very large budget. They have a consultant on board who's an expert on social media. We want them to start attending our meetings and listening to how we're quantifying stuff and our ideas about a public outreach program, and then have them weigh in on their expertise and how we can use the social media. And then finally, through our Water Quality Committee and efforts of Public Works, we're trying to reach out to the Restaurant Association with some flyers, with some suggestions about bring your own cup, straws on request kind of things, kind of just seeing if we can move forward here without upsetting folks too much. So this is kind of the soft sell we're trying on this pilot program. We don't want to make this threatening. I just think that what I've seen, the young people, they're kind of driving this whole thing with the green revolution. I think that if we can get them interested, that perhaps we can move this forward without any kind of economic deceival.
This is a question with regard to the trash that's collected, either with the Waterwheel or other places throughout the city system. Where does all that trash go, and is it divided? Is there a potential for dividing it and recycle?
Dave, do you know?
Sorry, that's a good question. And currently, for instance, your residential trash collector is CR&R, and they come around, they pick up your bins. That material is taken to our city yard where it's transferred onto trucks, and then they take it to what they call a material recovery facility. There's one in Stanton, there's one in Garden Grove. Actually, Huntington Beach has one too. They physically separate the trash, take out the recyclables, the metals, and things they can do, and that gets hopefully recycled. And then some of it, you've got the green waste that they use in a landfill for right now, alternative cover to cover it every night. And then the rest of the trash is disposed in a landfill. Currently, that's how the operation goes. Back to Mrs. Hart's question about alternative energy. I do know they've tried that in the past. You've got all kinds of regulatory agencies, the Air Quality Control Board and others, who haven't really embraced that yet. I actually toured several years out in Lake Paris. They had a demo alternative energy plant. They're taking the trash, turning it into pellets, burning it off, creating energy with that. But of course, you got something coming off too that you have to deal with. So I think that's getting closer. Will the citizens of California allow that as one of their solutions to waste, creating energy out of it? Yet to be seen. Did that answer your question?
I understand that the trash that's collected by our trash trucks, where that goes. But is the same thing happening with the materials or the trash that's being collected in the dumpsters and in these catch-all places? Is that being recycled?
Yeah, I think.
The same way.
I think the question, I think, for one of you is the trash that Bob Stein has just talked about getting out of the bay and out of the catch basins, is that also being recycled in the same way as our trash cans at home?
All that material is picked up, and again, we have multiple trash collection devices. I talked about CNR in a residential. We have another contract that goes around and collects all the trash cans in the city bins you'll see at the beach. That all goes through a recyclable MRF too. And then you have the commercial outfits, the restaurants, that is also collected by registered haulers. The city has 28 of them, and they're required to recycle and report how much to recycle on that. We have state mandated limits. We have to make a 50% recycle, and I think we're coming up to a 75% recycle limit. So the reduction that Bob's talking about is very important. We need to reduce that. What we do get, we want to be able to recycle. And then there's another thing coming on board right now we're struggling with is organic waste, which is the stuff that restaurants generate, and trying to separate it out and handle it separately. So the whole system is a recyclable method. From construction debris, that also goes through the system, very, very complex in multiple ways, but it is being recycled.
And introduce yourself.
Oh, I'm sorry. My name's Dave Webb. I'm the Director of Public Works, and I love what Bob does, and I got away and I wanted to see his presentation because it's always so fascinating what he's working on. He does a great job, by the way. I'm busy, and once in a while I catch him. What are you doing, Bob? And he's got some great little project now. So keep it up, Bob.
Do we have any other questions?
Yeah, we participated in the coastal cleanup in the Newport Back Bay, and I think some 30,000 pounds of trash were removed. And I have to say it was pretty fun. I've not done something that big before, and I'm wondering if the city of Newport has any ideas to try to organize youth movements or just community, maybe weekly meetups where people can go along areas of the watershed in kind of a mapped or routed way of efficiently doing kind of a weekly mini coastal cleanup throughout the watershed and the San Diego Creek. That's one question. The other question is, large debris, like things come in from the ocean, big chairs and furniture that are big eyesores all throughout the back bay. I guess you don't see it as much upstream from that. But aside from approaching, Fish and Wildlife and the Nature Conservancy, is there anything Newport Beach can do about that?
Yeah, great questions. The leadership on these cleanups really is coming from the NGOs, Sierra Club, Surf Riders, Orange County Coastkeeper, the Coastal Cleanup. And thank you. Heal the Harbor is doing the underwater cleanups. So the city is more of a facilitator rather than taking the lead on that. But we've really been focusing on the capital improvement program. And I'm not sure that's going to change in the future. However, we do have someone that working in our watershed division that is participating in those events, and I'll ask him, how the city can contribute in a way. It's not something that's part of our CIP budget, and again, it would be somewhat groundbreaking. So let me follow up on that. Make sure I give you my business card before you leave. Thank you.
Two more questions? Any more questions?
This is an even bigger problem in the ocean, and I'm just wondering what you have seen that's been developed to help in the ocean getting past Newport Beach.
I know our general operations, our municipal operations department, they spend a lot of time cleaning up trash that gets on the beaches. And we do have a program for monitoring the sensitive marine life areas off the coast, but the real regional work is being done by SQUIRP. They have these bite programs go on every 5 years, and every year they've been looking at the trash generation. There's a chart here that shows that they're seeing large areas of trash, and the red bars show that a bigger and bigger proportion is turning out to be plastic. So it's all kind of leading us to this direction. Can we move away from plastic? Can we get into more biodegradable stuff? Can we reduce the reliance of plastic products in fast food restaurants? That's kind of the direction we're heading here. But you may seem to have more information about.
These big scoopers that I think they can hear me. Oh, I see on the internet these pictures of these really big ocean scoopers that seem to be taking up huge amounts of trash off the ocean surface. And I haven't seen anything engineering-wise or informative other than a picture and, oh, look what we can do.
I haven't been following that. I know one of the council members was telling me that he sailed through that garbage patch, last year, and he said there's hardly any trash there. I mean, it's like one over there and then one over there. So it's not these big things you can scoop up. I guess I'll have to do more research, and I'm a little skeptical about those devices.
Oh, you have a question?
Is the city actively working on another outlet to the ocean in West Newport?
This every year this question comes up. As you know, that we don't have good circulation around Newport Island channels or the turning basin, and so if we had gone back 100 years ago, we would definitely wanted an outlet in that west end of the harbor. I would think you would need 20 to $30 million and a lot of clout on the Coastal Commission, because there hasn't been an ocean outfall constructed since the 1970s. So I don't want to be a pessimist, but I don't know. Good question.
Well, thank you, Bob. And let's give Bob a hand for an excellent presentation. And Deborah, will you close us out?
Yes. Okay, that concludes our meeting. Bob is around. He will give anyone his business card if you want to follow up with him on the staff. I've known Bob for years, and he's very accessible and very interested in the community. That concludes our program for this week, for this month. Next month, it is the second Wednesday, and the date escapes me, but it's the second Wednesday in June, 5:15. The buffet by Bungalow, and 6 o'clock will be the meeting. It's going to kick off summer, and we're going to have a report and an update on the cottages in the Newport Coast area. They're going to come and tell us all about finishing up the refurbishment of all of the cottages. You'll also be able to find out how you can make a reservation to stay in the cottages if you have friends that want to do that or you want to do it. And so come and join us, and we'll have another very informative program. Thank you very much.